The next article I wanted to look at is titled Man Involved in Michigan Governor Kidnapping Plot Said God Gave Him Permission to Kill. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but a few months ago, there was a kidnapping plot against Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan. She was the target of this whole plot where this group was going to kidnap and possibly execute her publicly. They were planning to break into the Capitol building and kidnap her and a bunch of other people, and it was just a huge mess. Well, the FBI, I believe, infiltrated the group by going to like rallies and stuff and joined some of their meetings, and just before the plot took place, they made a whole bunch of arrests. This is one of the people, a Christian extremist. So let's give this article a read. It's by Beth Stoneburner on the Friendly Atheist website. And by the way, this is from January 15th. That's when this one came out. It's a little bit older, but there's an update to it, and we're going to get to the update in a second. Let's read this. Remember the plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer? 6 of the suspects in that scheme have been indicted in the plot so far, and one of those men, surprise, happens to be a member of a far-right wing militia that stormed the U.S. Capitol last week, which of course was the 1/6 attack. And in a recent court appearance for the Whitmer plot, that man claims he has God's permission to kill people. So this is a picture of the guy, and this is a quote. Barry Croft, 45, of Bear, Delaware, pleaded not guilty and was denied bond during a hearing in federal court in Grand Rapids. The hearing marked Croft's first appearance in a Michigan courtroom since being charged alongside 5 others in October in a case that has focused national attention on violent extremism in Michigan. Obviously, this wasn't just a Michigan problem. This was an everywhere problem, a U.S. problem. And denying it isn't doing anybody any favors, just like Michelle Bachmann did right here.
January 6th. We're all told that that's the worst day that ever happened. These were the worst riots in America. It absolutely wasn't. It is my opinion that this was a theatrical event that the progressive left put on. The individuals who were the instigators who brought this about, these were agitators brought in to create this problem. I
mean, she's sitting here claiming that the left, that Antifa did the 1/6 stuff. Antifa did this. And here we are reading a story about a violent extremist who planned to kidnap the Democrat governor, Gretchen Whitmer. Like, how absurd does it get? How do you get to the point where you're sitting here denying reality like Michelle Bachmann is? Anyway, let's keep reading. Croft is the national leader of the 3 Percenters, a small militia that participated in the January 6th insurgents at the U.S. Capitol, FBI Special Agent Richard Trask said during the hearing. Croft was saying that he was guaranteed permission from God to commit murder. Correct, Assistant U.S. Attorney Nils Kessler asked the FBI agent. Correct, Trask said. In case you're unaware of the 3 Percenters, the name comes from the idea that all it takes is 3% of the country to overthrow the government. If you have 3% of the population on your side, then it's over. Let's see, 325 million people, I think, times 3%. It would basically take 1 million people, and that's just under how many U.S. active duty military members there are, I think. I think there are like 1.3 million active duty U.S. military members. So 3% of the country, if they were activated in this extremist cause, then, you know, the U.S. government would have a fight on their hands. Of course, they would probably win, ultimately, because these guys, these extremists, they don't have access to the same types of weapons as the U.S. military does. But the point is, it's concerning. It's concerning that it really does only take about 3%, most likely, to overthrow the government. This guy, the name of his organization is just about correct. And he knows that. That's fucking scary. Let's keep reading. This is Beth Stoneburner talking. That conversation was part of the justification used by the government to make sure Croft isn't allowed to leave the state. He had requested to be released from prison before trial to avoid the risk of contracting COVID. Thankfully, prosecutors agreed he was a flight risk and should stay put. Whitmer wasn't Croft's only target either. The FBI also claims He posted a hit list on Facebook that included the Obamas. Oh my God, dude. I suppose in a twisted way, God could arguably have had a sense of humor in all this. Croft attempted to kill people, but got caught and charged with crimes before he could harm anyone. Well played. Or maybe we should stop taking anyone seriously when they justify their worst actions with faith. Just because you're religious doesn't mean you're virtuous. I think Beth Stoneburner is religious. I believe she's a Christian, but she's not an extremist Christian, the one that wrote this article. I could be wrong. Again, correct me in the comments if I am, but I believe that's the case. I read that. I think I read that in her profile on here. So there's an update to this. This was released June 2nd, 2021, written by Hemant Mehta. The title is Alleged Whitmer Kidnapper Doesn't Want Anyone Hearing Him Say God Gave the Okay. Last year, more than a dozen men were arrested for their attempted plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. One of those guys was Barry Croft, a right-wing militia leader of the Three Percenters group, who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. He was one of them, and it is definitely an extremist group. Croft's arrest was particularly interesting because prosecutors and eventually a judge said he couldn't be trusted to be released until his trial date, and that's largely because he believed he had permission from God to commit murder. Something that I've come to realize is extremists always have a justification for their extreme beliefs. Everybody is a hero of their own stories. For the most part, there's the occasional person who knows they're evil and is doing that evil thing despite the fact that they know that it's wrong. But for the most part, generally, people believe they're doing the right thing. Even the extreme nutcases believe they're doing the right thing. And here's a prime example. This guy is an extremist. A clear-cut case. But he found a justification for being like this. He believes that he's got God's okay. He believes that he's doing what God wants him to do. He believes he's a good person trying to fix the world and make it a better place. Even though he's completely fucking nuts and tried to murder a government official. A governor. Holy shit, dude. Let's keep reading. The media is now trying to access his statements to that effect, and his lawyers are doing everything they can to prevent that from happening. They don't want the world to know that, what was it again? Croft thinks God gave him permission to murder someone. The Detroit Free Press explains. Here's a quote. In a new court filing, prosecutors on Tuesday said they do not object to releasing evidence that convinced a judge to order that Croft remain jailed pending trial this October, concluding he was a danger to society and could not be trusted to be free on bond. Honestly, I'm surprised it took him this long to catch the guy. Like, why didn't this guy snap way earlier than he did? Croft's lawyers want that alleged evidence, audio recordings, video, and photographs to remain sealed. But multiple media outlets argue the public has the right to see and hear them. According to the government, here's some of what Croft does not want the public to hear. Quote, Croft expounds in an excited tone about his intent to commit acts of terrorism and claims God granted him permission to violate God's commandments. Prosecutors state in court records. In one particular message, Croft explicitly states his intent to kidnap Governor Whitmer, the primary offense with which he is charged. I would love to watch those clips. I am so heartbroken, but simultaneously so fascinated with the extremist mind. How did it get to this point? What happened? I mean, how old is this guy? This guy looks to be 40? Maybe he's got gray hair. 45, 50 maybe. What happened between the ages of 0 and 50 to get this guy to the point that he's at right now? What happened in his childhood, in his adolescence, in his young adult life to get him to the point where he was the leader of a terrorist organization like the Three Percenters? How did he get there? It's fucking mind-blowing. I absolutely love reading about this shit. That's why Heaven's Gate is one of the most fascinating cults to me. Is because I just want to wrap my head around somebody gets to that point, you know? I mean, this group of 39 people mixed cyanide, I believe, into applesauce and ate it, and then tied bags around their own heads, not other people. They did it themselves and laid down and went to sleep. And then that was 12 people. And then another group of 12 were tending to them, making sure everything was secure, making sure it was well tied, making sure the quarters were in their pockets for space fare. And then that 12 went down, ate the applesauce, did the bags, the whole thing. How do you get to that point in your life, really? What led you down that path? I just want to understand, Let's keep reading. I don't understand these Christian extremists. They spend all their time talking about God to the point where the rest of us can't ignore them, but when God supposedly instructs them to do awful things, they want to keep that stuff private. Good point. It's up to the judge to decide whether releasing those tapes will taint a potential jury pool. She'll make her decision later this month, but even if she says that evidence must remain sealed, we still know part of what's being hidden from the public's view. My God, I hope they release those tapes eventually, even if it's in like 10 years. I so want to see what he had to say. I just want a glimpse into the guy's mind. I don't know. I'll tell you what I'm going to do later. I'm going to look into this guy and see if I can find video of him talking. That would be fascinating, right? It's Croft's admission that the Christian God told him to kidnap and murder someone. I repeat, the God who said thou shalt not kill allegedly told Croft he could just ignore that rule for a bit. Or more accurately, Croft convinced himself that's what God told him. Is he lying? Deluded? Something else? I'd love to know what reason MAGA cultists use to dismiss that damning testimony. It's the exact same reasoning that every cultist uses. They always find a reason to excuse away their misdeeds. That is the nature of the cult mindset. They are heroes in their own minds. Tom Cruise believes he is saving the world. Tom Cruise thinks he's saved billions of people. Has he? Of course not. That's fucking ridiculous. But cultists are always the hero of their own stories. This guy right here believes he's doing the right thing. He believes that he is the hero of this narrative. The government's just gotten one over on him just at this moment. He'll come back, is what he thinks. And that's his viewpoint on this. He lost for the moment, but he'll make a comeback. That's the kind of mindset that these extremists keep.